This time it's known as a celebrity neighborhood. Let me introduce the high-rise residential buildings along the coast of Ashiya City, Hyogo Prefecture. That place is located within a new town called Ashiya Seaside Town. Ashiya Danchi is a large-scale housing complex with a total of 52 buildings constructed in 1979. Before construction, there were major discussions between the prefecture and the city. Although troubles occurred, the residents overcame them with their own strength. It was built at great expense. This town was built in such a unique way that it was called a futuristic Japanese high-rise residence, attracting attention from all over Japan. In this video, I will introduce the past, present, future, and development of Ashiya Danchi while walking around the town. On Omatsu's Anywhere Exploration team, we will continue to bring you enjoyable content. We will be making lots of videos, so please be sure to subscribe to our channel. So with that said, I headed to Ashiya Seaside Town, a new town along the coast of Ashiya City, Hyogo Prefecture. I've arrived. When you think of Ashiya City, many people probably imagine it as a city of celebrities. It's nationally famous as an area where high-income earners gather, like the Roku-Roku-Su. Generally, the area called the Celebrity District is on the mountainside, while the seaside area, well, it might be rude to say it's not like that, but it's not the Ashiya that everyone imagines. However, it's really interesting and kind of mysterious to see so many high-rise buildings with the same design standing together. It's fascinating. The location is here. Originally, this area was the sea, and about 125 hectares of land around here were reclaimed to create Ashiya Seaside Town. That's roughly the size of about 2.5 Tokyo domes and about 30 hectares of that area. Ashiya Housing Complex. This time I'm introducing Ashiya. Only the 30 hectares with the high-rise apartments in Seaside Town are included, but the other 95 hectares have single-family homes and such. When it comes to the high-rise apartments, they're called the Ashiya Housing Complex. That's how it's usually referred to, so I'll use that term in this video as well. The nearest station is Uchiide Station on the Henshin Main Line. From here, it's about a 20-minute walk to Ashiya Seaside Town. It's one station from Ashiya Station, the central station of Ashiya City. The train access feels a bit inconvenient, but it's not really that bad. By the way, there's a reason I wanted to feature this place. The Hanshin Expressway Kishi line runs nearby, and every time I use it, I see this mysterious design. I've been curious about Ashiya Danchi for a long time since I could see it, so I'm glad I could feature it in this video. It's actually pretty close from the expressway exit, and if you're driving, it's easy to access from Osaka as well. Here, there are 52 high-rise apartment buildings ranging from 14 to 29 stories. In 1979, they built the 29-story buildings. That's amazing, right? At the time, Shunku was the tallest apartment complex in Japan. There are 3,381 storage units. A total of 700,000 people were involved in the construction, and it was a major project costing 480 million yen. There are a lot of trees planted here, so it feels like you're in a forest. But sometimes the scent of the sea comes on the wind, so it's wonderful to walk around. Now let me introduce how Ashiya Seaside Town and the housing complex were created. The 1960s were a transitional period from post-war reconstruction to urban development. Because of that, the development of new towns was being considered in various places, so Ashiya City also decided to reclaim land along the coast to create places where people could live. That's how it turned out. Also, although it feels pretty normal now, The idea of reclaiming land from the sea to build a new town was apparently rare, even across Japan. By the way, the one I introduced in a previous video, the Nenko port town in Sakishima, Osaka, which I mentioned before, is also a new town built around the same time by reclaiming land from the sea. I'll put the link in the description, so if you're interested, please check it out. It was reclaimed. The area was an enormous 125 hectares, which is actually 1/4 the size of Ashiya. Hyogo Prefecture carried out the reclamation over 6 years, from 1969 to 1975. When you compare the maps from before and after the reclamation, you can see just how massive the reclaimed area was. The Ashiyama housing complex, originally at the Newtown Center, was planned to be converted into a cluster of high-rise residential buildings. The reclamation work was in full swing in 1972 when a rare event occurred, even on a national level. The Ministry of Construction, now the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, decided to hold a competition to determine the design of the high-rise residential complex. The competition was organized by the Ministry of Construction, Hyogo Prefecture, Ashiya City, the Japan Housing Corporation, the Hyogo Prefecture Housing Supply Corporation, and Japanese architects. 6 central organizations acted as the organizers. You can tell just from this how much effort they put into it. The conditions for this competition were pretty tough. The focus was on things like reducing costs for design, production, and construction, as well as on the sale and management of housing and overall community development. They were looking for comprehensive proposals, including post-construction management because a single company can't cover everything on its own. So it became a system where multiple companies would form a group and apply together. In the end, it seems there were applications from 127 companies and 22 groups. That's an incredible number. The result was Shin Nihon Steel, Takanaka Corporation, Takasago Thermal Engineering, Matsushita Electric Works, and Matsushita Electric. The winning bid was the A Company Consortium, which is made up of these companies, by the way. A is a coined word taken from the first letters of Ashiya, Shin Nihon Steel, Takanaka Corporation, Takasago Thermal Engineering, Matsushita Electric Works, and Matsushita Kosen. In the actual project, as mentioned above, the 5 companies established the A joint venture and also set up a company called Astem Co's Ltd. To manage operations after completion. The Ashiya housing complex construction had started. And that's the process leading up to the construction. It's been about 45 years since the housing complex was built, but the residents are still aging. There are some issues, but many people still live here. This Ashiya housing complex has a unique design, doesn't it? A very unusual construction method was used in its building. To put it simply, first, the steel frame is assembled to the height of the apartment building. Then 10 pre-assembled units are fitted into it. This method is called the prefabrication method. That's why it has a design that looks like stacked blocks. By the way, if you look closely, there are floors with hollow spaces where the 10 units are not fitted in. These areas are used as shared spaces. As expected, since it's inside the apartment complex, I couldn't go in, but it seems to be treated like a sky garden. However, it's said that the wind is too strong to relax there. Well, since it's by the sea, that's understandable, but you'd think they could have predicted how strong the wind would be before building it. Also, even though there's an elevator installed, this shared area, it only stops on the common area floors, so you absolutely have to go up or down the stairs to get to your home. The reason the elevator only stops on some floors is because this is an old apartment complex. That's just how it is, so I think it's unavoidable, but it is a bit of a hassle. Also, besides the fact that the units are fitted into a steel frame, there are 3 other major features I'd like to introduce. First, the first feature is that a district heating and oil supply system has been installed within the complex. A huge facility generates heat, and hot water and warm air are delivered to each residence. The second feature is that air is compressed to send garbage to the incineration plant. Because of this facility, when people living here throw away their garbage, they just have to toss it into the garbage chute installed on the common floor or the first floor. After the garbage is temporarily stored in a place called the bottom valve room, it is automatically transported to the incineration plant through vacuum pipes 4 times a day. It's a very convenient facility, but there are a lot of warning notices written here. That's understandable, because if it gets clogged, repairs can cost as much as 500,000 yen, clogs and such. Even if it's not related, when the equipment gets old and needs to be replaced, it can cost as much as 341,000 yen. It's an expensive item, but for the residents, it's a very convenient facility, and there are voices asking for it to continue. However, its discontinuation is being considered due to the costs. The third point is that the sidewalks and the roadways are separated. The Nanko area I introduced before. In Port Town, you can't drive a car without special permission. There was a system in place where, except for cars, you couldn't even enter the housing complex in the first place. The sidewalks and roads aren't particularly separated, but you need permission to use them. Cars normally drive right next to the sidewalks. Thinking about it that way, I personally felt that this Ashiya housing complex might actually be safer. In the center of town, there's the Ashiya Center building, which houses many clinics and other businesses. There's also the 4-story Gourmet City Ashiya store. However, the 4th floor is now off limits. By the way, it used to be a Daiei, but after losing its momentum, it was downgraded to a Gourmet City. Since photography is prohibited inside the store, I couldn't go in and take pictures, but it's a big place. The lack of renovations preserved the traditional Japanese atmosphere. The store interior was empty. The inside had few tenants, but the outside tenants, the area had turned into a shuttered shopping street. The only place still open was a beauty salon, and as time has passed since the opening of the town, the scale of the commercial facilities may no longer match the scale of the town. But still, as someone who loves these local commercial facilities, I could watch this forever. The overflowing Japanese vibe and the slightly worn-out feeling are just the best. Oh, by the way, my favorite open atrium and see-through elevator weren't there. Also, the parking lot is way too small. The problem is I came here by car this time. It's a common thing with old shopping centers. The parking spaces are so narrow that I had a hard time parking. Lastly, I'll give a brief introduction just before the construction. Because of this, Ashiya City and Hyogo Prefecture were having disputes over educational issues. Ashiya City resisted the prefecture by withholding funding for Seaside Town. They stopped the water supply and suspended the use of garbage disposal facilities, among other things. They took measures such as opening schools in the district and refusing to allow certain things. The roads are still unfinished, and even the shops haven't opened yet. People started moving in just like that. The residents had no running water, no roads, and no schools. It became a really tough situation, with no supermarkets where people could buy groceries either. However, the residents took action. As a result, Hyogo Prefecture and Ashiya City reconciled, and the town developed according to the original plan It seems that, thanks to this incident, the bonds among the residents became stronger. Overall, it was a very nice town, an artificial town built along the seaside. As a fetishist, I was so excited that I almost fainted. But of course, there are a lot of problems. The aging population has been storing electricity for nearly 50 years, particularly for waste disposal using vacuum pipes. The elevator can only stop at the common areas. How to solve these problems is something I'll continue to keep an eye on. Personally, that's how I feel. I don't think high-rise residential complexes will ever be built again, so I really hope they won't be demolished. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel or giving it a like. This was Omatsu's Anywhere Exploration Team. See you in the next video.